In this video, I'm going to walk you through my Lightroom mobile editing workflow. Over the past year, I've really worked hard to minimize both my camera setup and my editing workflow so that I can release a bit of creativity and a bit of creative freedom when it comes to creating photos and indeed editing them. I've got this down to a fine art now, and I've braved it on a few trips that I've taken this year where I've gone super minimal but had a great time editing. So I thought I would share it with you because there's a few little intricacies here and there with Lightroom Mobile that you might find helpful if you want to use it for your editing also. So let me start with the gear I use. Predominantly my editing workhorse here is my iPad mini. Now, I know this is not the best iPad on the market, but it suits my needs perfectly. I have made a video, which you can check out up here, about that in particular, but in short, it is the 64 gig version. Stick with me on that one, don't panic. And I use the Apple Pencil Generation 2. This is not an essential item, but when it comes to creativity, I found that it's added absolutely loads of inspiration in terms of really getting into an edit. And because it's such a small setup, so light, compact, I've been able to edit pretty much everywhere. Planes, trains, on my sofa, laying in bed in the evening, in coffee shops, over lunch, literally anywhere. And I'm not chained to my desk. I know a lot of people like to edit on really, really big screens, but for me, I don't mind. And then of course you can use Lightroom Mobile across all devices. I do also have it on my Mac and indeed my iPhone, so that anything is accessible absolutely anywhere. The other little piece of gear that I carry with me and you will need for this workflow is quite simply an SD card reader. In my case, the iPad mini has a USB-C. So I have one of those, and this little Anchor reader here has a slot for SD cards and micro SD. So if I'm using my DJI Osmo Action or the DJI drone, I can pop them into there and upload straight onto the iPad. And then the only other piece of equipment, if you like, it's actually a piece of software, obviously, is Lightroom Mobile itself, which, as I've mentioned, I have installed on my iPad mini, my MacBook and my iPhone. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things in terms of how to set up Lightroom Mobile itself to enhance it the best. And for me, I've set it up so that it's most storage effective because, as I've mentioned, I only have the 64 gigabyte iPad mini, and I did do that for a reason, and here is why. Before I get into the workflow itself, let me just give you a few little tech specs and tips in terms of using Lightroom Mobile itself. I actually subscribe to Adobe's cloud storage. I have a terabyte of cloud storage, which works really, really well for me. And it's how it enables me to have just this 64 gigabyte iPad itself, which works really, really nicely. Now, I do enable smart previews only so that I don't store everything onto the iPad. But what I do is when I'm working on an album itself, especially when I'm traveling and I don't have regular access to Wi-Fi, is that you can check a little section on each album to store locally. So this means that if I'm editing a car on a road trip, as I was, for example, in Croatia, it's not constantly trying to pull it down from the cloud, and it's just there and you can work on it and you have no problems at all. Of course, you can do that from on the iPad, on the Mac or on the iPhone. So just make sure when you've got a good bit of Wi-Fi that you check store locally for anything you do want to work on the move. And you can then check that later to save yourself a bit of storage. The other thing I do on a regular basis is clear my cache. Again, not while I'm on the road, but once I've done with things and I know that I've finished editing them and exporting them and I'm happy with everything, I'll just clear that cache to keep the iPad nice and freed up. One other thing to note is I don't actually use my iPad for a lot of other things. I just use it for a bit of web browsing and predominantly, basically, is photo editing. So I don't eat up a huge amount of storage. Of course, you could get any kind of tablet or iPad with a bigger storage if you feel a bit more comfortable with that. This setup with cloud storage personally just works for me. So now we've got that out of the way, I went out a couple of days ago in some beautiful light to capture some images solely for the purpose of this video. So I'll cut to that little bit of B-roll now because it was really fun to show you those pictures, and then I can bring them back and I will show you the workflow of how it goes step by step through the process of importing right through to the end. So let's go. Julep, julep, julep. Okay, so now that we're back from the shoot, I am going to run you through the workflow itself. Firstly, we're going to hit Lightroom there to open it up. It's my main app. Now, you can see that I have actually already imported and edited those photos for the purpose of the earlier part of this video, but I'm just going to import them again to demonstrate how to do that. So we're going to take your card reader with your memory card from your camera here and simply plug it into the bottom of the iPad. Now, this can be a little bit temperamental. Sometimes it will come up and recognize the card. If it does not, as it hasn't in this occasion, hit the little plus icon down on the bottom right here, and you can press connected camera or card. And if voila, you will get all of the photos that are on that card and you can see them all loading up. So I'm going to take all of these photos from the day that I took them. So you can either hit the little check icon on the very top left next to the date, and that will bring in everything from that date. Or alternatively, you can go through and singly select what you would like. So I've selected all my photos there. They're all highlighted in blue. I'm going to go to the top here, and where it says all photos, I'm going to click the little down arrow and create a new album called, I'm going to call this Autumn 23. I'm going to hit OK. So they're all kept together there, and I'm simply going to press import. And you will see them copying across depending on the speed of your card and card reader. They will go quicker or slower. We'll wait for that to go. Okay, now that that is complete, we can hit OK, and we are now safe to take out the card and card reader. So put that to one side. And you can see importing 105 photos, and you can check the progress in the top right corner here, and you can hit the little cloud button here and you'll see it's syncing that to my cloud there. So you can let that run in the background, but if you hit the little icon on the top next to the Lightroom icon there itself, you will see all of your albums on the left hand side here, and this is where I do all of my organization. So at the very top I've got all photos, and you've got various smart folders here, and you keep coming down to my albums, and this is where I keep all of my separate albums, and I've got it into folders as well. So I've organized things into trips, UK little trips I've done, and then at the bottom here are all your default import albums come here. So you can see the one I created earlier, which is Autumn 23. Now, as I mentioned to you earlier, I'll hit those three dots there, and I'm going to add store locally, and that will require downloading. It tells you how much space you have available, so that's really useful to know. So I'm just going to hit download so that I can edit through them really smoothly. And you can see a little progress bar at the bottom, so it will tell you that. Once you've done that, you can come into the album itself. You can hit that little button right at the top there again, so you've got a nice open view of all of your images. How I typically work in terms of importing photos and organizing them is at the beginning I will literally go from photo 1, I will hit this little star button down at the bottom here to work on my ratings, and I just use the tick and the X, so the rating yay or nay. So I will literally go through the photos and press no, 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 and etc. I'll go through all of them until and find some that I want, and I'll hit a yes there. And once I've done all of that, I will then go back and I can choose up here, there's a little filter button where I hit, and I can then choose my flagged images by pressing the ticked ones. And I haven't gone through them all yet, but it would bring up all my flagged photos here, so I can then see all the ones that I want to work on and not worry about the ones I don't. Once I've chosen my picks, I will go through each individual photo and edit them. Now, I'm not going to turn this into an editing video because it will end up too long. Maybe I'll do one in the future, but you can see, for example, this photo here is one that I did edit earlier. Now, if you go into the editing mode, just at the very top with all the little adjustment keys there, you will get everything up here on the right hand side, but you can click anywhere you like and it will still bring the photo up in full here. And if I hold it down, it will show you what it looked like before and what it looked like after. Much better, in my opinion. So that's a nice way to see your before and after. As I said, you can do any adjustments in here. The possibilities with Lightroom are absolutely endless. You've got your basic adjustments, your color adjustments, special effects, you've got details, optics and geometry. You can add your masks. There's so much that you can do. And actually I'm feeling inspired as I'm making this video to lots of things that I could share in terms of tips that I've learned along the way. But I really just wanted to make this video more about the workflow itself. Once I'm happy with all my photos and edited themselves, I then just go to export them. I will usually go onto my Mac and I will export a whole album for particularly trips and things like that, and export all of the JPEGs into a Dropbox folder just to keep the JPEGs safe, just in case anything were to happen. But also, obviously, my raw files are all saved into the cloud. You can directly share from Lightroom itself, which is a really useful feature. So you can save a copy to the device, you can share via any of the usual means, AirDrop, you can send them in a message, an email, whatever you like. You can also have a nice little feature to add a border and share, which I've made a video about before. I will pop up in the top left. It's a really nice little feature for sharing to social media, so you can get it in the right aspect ratio. You can choose different types of file type and sharing and sizing and more. You can do export as, and if you have Adobe Photoshop on your iPad or any device, you can also edit straight into that. I don't typically use it because I find the features in Lightroom just enough for me. It's really, really all I need. So that's pretty much a brief summary of my workflow itself. As I mentioned, the editing is a whole nother beast. I hope you did find this useful as well. I love using the pencil, just as a side note. So if you're going to do it, I think it makes it really creative to edit there. Clips nicely to the side of the iPad. And happy editing, to be honest with you. I really, really love using this mode to edit and indeed to organize. As I've mentioned, I keep all my folders here so I can look at things whenever I want. And it's a really, really nice way to keep organized and know where all of your images are. So if you do have any tips, to say this is kind of self-learned and I've just worked it out along the way, do drop them below. And indeed, any questions that you have about using Lightroom Mobile and any of the intricacies and quirks. And I will look forward to seeing you in the next video.